Welcome to Parent Coaches Unleashed, the podcast where we dive into the highs, lows, and did that really just happen moment of parenting teens and young adults. We're Carrie and Jessica, parent coaches, mythbusters, and occasional referees in the battle of hormones versus common sense.
If you've ever wondered, is this just happening to me? You're not alone. We're here to help you with real talk, expert advice, and hopefully a few laughs along the way. Need more support? We also offer private coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements because sometimes even parents don't have all the answers.
So continue listening as we tackle this parenting journey together.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed, where we talk openly and honestly about everything parenting, from the messes to the worries to the wins and everything in between. Today's topic, executive function. We hear that term, but I don't think we talk about it enough. So when you say, why can't my teen just get it together? Or why is my college child who is so smart having such a hard time managing life? That's what we're talking about here. So if that sounds like you, this is an episode for you. Today's guest, Todd Weisbrot, is an executive function coach, and we are going to get into everything about executive function with him. So welcome, Todd.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's just jump in.
Sure.
All right. I am here too. You forgot to say, welcome, Carrie.
I forgot to say hi, Carrie.
Okay. Hi, I'm here. I will start us off. All right. So a lot of parents know that term or have heard it, like executive function. But I don't really know in layman's terms if we know really what it means. So Todd, could you just give us the everyday language, what really that means? What does executive function mean?
Yeah, it can be a complicated term, but the easiest way to understand executive functioning is brain's management system. In essence, allowing us to get things done. So, for example, we work on skills that help us get things done. And these executive function skills do that. Some of them include goal setting and planning and task initiation and prioritizing and responsibility, etc. But again, once students, and they can be young adults all the way up to college, start to build these skills and strengthen this management system, they're able to get things done, and it's a lot easier for them.
Gotcha.
How do we know or what are some signs that we would know that our child is lacking in their executive functioning skills?
Yeah, sure. There's definitely many signs. One of the biggest signs is procrastination. They wait till the last minute to get things done. A great deal of these kids and adults exhibit anxiety, so that gets in their way when they're trying to get things done. They may exhibit low confidence. In other words, they might say, "I can't do this," or "I'm never going to get this." They also might have time management issues where they're struggling on completing tasks, and maybe they may do an assignment and the teacher calls the parent or writes a note saying, "I never received this assignment." It might just be in their backpack somewhere. A lot of issues with organization, time management, confidence, anxiety, etc.
Okay. And can you talk to us about why it is so crucial to have these skills?
Yeah, they help to build independence. They help to build confidence. They help to build the ability to get tasks done, to balance your time between, for example, with kids, they have academics. They might have a part-time job. They have also social things that they need to work through. When they're not able to regulate their executive function skills, it's very hard for them to get any of these things done. Then what it does is starts to decrease their confidence and increase
Sure.
anxiety. And when there's anxiety, it feeds off throughout the household. Parents start to get frustrated. Kids are frustrated. Brothers and sisters are frustrated. And often snowballs into a situation which can become out of control.
And is it possible, like, if you're lacking executive function skills, could a parent or family or teacher see it as a behavioral issue and really not understand there's something underneath going on? Is that how maybe it could present?
That's a
Absolutely.
great point. Yeah.
That's a great point. That is a great point. It can look like a behavioral issue because it may be, why are you not doing your work? Why are you not turning it in? Why are you on your phone 3 hours a day after school? It almost can exhibit as defiance, right?
Mm.
It may look like that and maybe try to be treated like that. It also could be looked at as an academic deficiency with content too. In
Mm.
essence, they're not understanding algebra 2 or they're not understanding chemistry, when in actuality, they're not taking notes in class. They're not studying per se. They're not using flashcards, etc. So it can manifest into behavioral and like I said, or academic content issue.
How would a parent know that it is an executive functioning issue or that it is a behavioral issue? I would imagine it's a fine line. And how,
It is,
as
yeah.
parents, do we determine that there's a difference there?
Yeah, definitely a fine line. The biggest thing is consistency, right? So are they, not turning in their homework, just once, or is it happening every day? Are they
Mhm.
struggling with all subjects, or is it just one subject? Are they acting out in one class, or is it every class? That huge piece is that consistency of that happening. For example, also, when they procrastinate, is it again all of the time, every single day? Are they fighting doing assignment or studying for a test, etc.? Or is it just a particular class or a particular test? So again, I look at those signs. Are they happening over and over again? And if they
Mhm.
are, it often leads to executive function skills. The other thing that parents can do is I do have a actual parent survey on my website. It's skills dash the number 4life dash coach.com. There's actually a survey that they can
Okay.
take, which asks questions to kind of guide and determine if their child needs executive function skill support.
And
Okay.
is this something that schools or a teacher or a school psychologist would actually point out to a parent and make a recommendation to look for an executive function coach? Or do they first go to try a tutor?
They often go to tutor. A lot of teachers, in my experience in being in the traditional schools, and a lot of guidance counselors haven't recognized. I've probably only run into a few over my 20 years within the educational system where the teacher has actually pointed out. It was really interesting.
Mm.
I was at a charter school, and the teacher happened to be a high-powered executive who ended up uh, retiring and moving on, and decided he wanted to help and decided to go into education and got a sub certificate, and then eventually took some classes and became a teacher. He was the one who really pointed out executive function skills with different students and was trying to explain it to them and to parents, but that often doesn't happen. A lot of times, teachers, counselors will go right to tutoring.
Okay.
And then what would be the difference? What do you do that a tutor is not able to do?
Yeah. So a tutor focuses on content. For example,
Okay.
my child is in statistics and they just don't get it. Like they've went for help, they've looked at YouTube videos, they went on Khan Academy, they talk with their teacher, they ask questions. They just need help figuring out how to do the statistical problems. On the other hand, with an executive function coach, and what I do is more trying to determine the barrier of what is causing a child to struggle in a class, in school, socially, etc., and then creating a plan to help them. So we talk through things, try to figure out exactly what the barriers are, set goals, work toward those goals, monitor those goals, and then work out strategies to help the child meet those goals. Strategies such as using a planner, strategies such as advocating for themselves, strategies such as looking for new study techniques, such as using flashcards or talking through different items and how to understand them. So, not focusing on content per se, but on how to successfully turn all of that into completing tasks successfully.
Right. And it sounds like your skills are more across the board for not only academic purposes, but life in general.
It is. It's life skills. So that's why we developed skills for life coaching to help those life skills. Because in essence, we don't when we start to figure out what the barrier is, it may be that the child is just feeling anxious, right? They're exhibiting anxiety, and it's something that needs to be talked through with a psychologist or an executive function skills coach, etc. Or the student is having difficulty figuring out how to organize themselves. So
Mhm.
coming up with a system, we have particular folders labeled for this class, and we have binders that they utilize, etc. Again, all of these skills can be used throughout life. One of the biggest skills that I think I learned when I first got into education and use with a lot of adults and recent graduates is going to work early. Lock yourself in your office or sit in your cubicle. Answer those emails. Figure out, okay, how is my day going to work? Come up with a list of tasks that you need to do, prioritize those tasks, and then work through them as the day goes on.
I think what you're saying is really important, but it also sounds like this executive functioning skills can be lacking for a lot of adults as well. And if you think about it, like, this is one of those terms that I feel like is relatively new, but it's always been there.
Mhm.
So, do you work with adults as well, or does it ever happen when you're working with a child or a young adult and then the parent is like, "Wait a second, I have these issues too."
I've had that. I've had that happen several occasions actually in the last couple of years. Um, some proceed, and some are kind of like, scared to move on,
Right.
admit that they want the support, et cetera. But
Sure.
I have had that. And one of the things that I've worked a lot with adults on is using their Google Calendar to help guide their day and structure their day, using a whiteboard, even having the whiteboard up
Mm.
in their
Mhm.
office or at home, listing the tasks that they need to complete. Also talking a lot about, what happens when you try to multitask, right? For example, you're working on an email and a call comes in, and you stop the email and you go to the call and you figure out and work through the call, but then you forget to go back to the email,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So trying to remember those kinds of things and systems on what to do if that happens.
It's interesting that you say that because when my middle guy, when he started college, I would get these calls from him, and it would always start at the beginning of the semester. And they would be these frantic, anxious calls about, I have so much to do. I don't even know where to start. Everybody can't be feeling this way. And he's in engineering, so his schedule's a little more complicated than some of his friends who are not in engineering. And he felt like he was just always inundated with work. And one of the things we worked through was just that, making a list and prioritizing what he needed to get done. And those calls have stopped, and I've asked him about it, and he said, "Well, yeah, now I just make a list every day. I start my day by making a list and figuring out what has to be done." There's something really important to be said about how you said starting your day, organizing and thinking about everything you really need to get through.
Yeah, and one of the things that is common now that I'm seeing a lot of in the uptake in colleges moving to virtual classes, due to spacing issues, due to not staffing issues, and what's happening is a lot of the college students really struggle because some of them are on complete virtual programs for a year or so, and they might say, well, I'm not really in school. But yes, you are. And one
Right.
of the things that we've worked on and focused on is you need to set yourself up a schedule like you're in school. So from this time, you are working on this class like you're in this class. Then time blocking later on in the day, you're at that particular class. And then you can do lunch, and then you have your workout, and then you go to your next class. And you might be in the library, or you might be in your fraternity house, or you might be in your apartment. But again, your class schedule is your day. It's structured, needs to be
Right.
structured.
Yeah, I think that's one surprise for like 18-year-olds, right? They're in moving from high school to college is such a huge transition leaving home, but the part that I believe we do not put a lot of attention on as parents is they were so scheduled. Right?
Mhm.
Everything was done for them, with going to high school,
Right.
with after
True.
school activities, whatever the rules were within your home for dinner or bedtime if you had one. And then it's like nothing, right? All you have is a class and a class time, maybe two or three, but everything else is now fallen on you as an 18-year-old having new independence. Like, so I'm thinking in your practice, you have to see a lot of that age group. Now, is it the 18-year-old or the young adult coming to you saying help, or is it the parents noticing the child struggling, or they're coming to the parent saying, I'm struggling, and they reach out to you? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, you made an excellent point, especially of trying to that exert that independence and figure things out with almost no structure, right? With just
Mhm.
these classes, et cetera. But oftentimes it gets to a point with college students that the parent is quote unquote at their wits end. And they'll reach out to me and say, they'll give me all the information during a consultation about their child, and then they'll say, "But I don't think they'll do this. I don't know if they'll go for it." So my response is just give me, 30, 45 minutes to talk with them and try to figure out what's going on and build a rapport, and let's see how we can proceed. If they are interested in it, we'll go through and set up a program and a plan to work with them. Very few of my clients have come from the kids reaching out to the parents. It's
Okay.
normally the parents, and it's almost I mean I hear I'm at my wits end daily, or if not, more than daily, and that's kind of when they get to my situation. Um, and that's high school, and that's college, and that's middle school. Often with middle school, we'll have a parent reach out, but the child is not interested.
Sure.
So if they're not going to try, we have to work on trying to motivate and talk through how this will support and help them.
In a case like that, would you ever take on the parent as a client and say, try these things with your kid, or like almost like tutoring the parent on how to teach their child these executive functioning skills?
Absolutely. And that is something that we are working on. And we also have workshops that we're working on doing and reaching out to small businesses, organizations, schools, etc., to try to assist and support adults with helping and learning how and strategies that they can utilize to help their child. I would definitely take on the parent and help with them, and we do have some resources also on our website, and we do update those. Some of the things that we talk about on there, the Pomodoro technique, which is something that I could talk to parents about, time blocking as another strategy, goal setting, etc.
So I something Carrie and I have spoken about in the past is what we would like to see done. For example, I know Carrie is a big proponent of having an emotional checklist for pediatricians, like just looking at your mental well being. Is there anything you would like to see done, whether it's in our education system or something as parents, like, that you would like to see done to help kids at the beginning, at the
Yeah, so
help
we don't
kids.
have to get to our wits
Right,
end as
right,
parents.
right, exactly. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for helping me articulate that. You always do that so well. Yes. What Carrie said.
That's why we make a good team.
No, yeah,
How do we
that,
prevent
yeah.
kids from getting and parents from getting to their wits' end? What would you like to see?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things definitely. Yes, a pediatrician checklist would be very helpful. I would love to see training on executive professional development, on executive functioning for teachers. In my 20
Mm,
plus years in education, I never received any training in a school setting. Everything was on my own,
mhm.
and researching on my own and my own resources, etc. I would also like to see. Um, Schools work with and focus on skills at a young age. Often we get so pushed into content, and content is
Yeah,
super important, but kids need to understand skills, right? And so mixing and integrating in those skills needs to happen. Unfortunately, the timing and just all the other external factors and forces they're hitting our
right.
education system aren't allowing us to do that at this point, and we need to reevaluate and figure out how we can get these kids from a young age supported and helped.
So one of the things that I know that they've implemented at my son's high school is a requirement for personal financial literacy. And I think that this would tie perfectly into that. Just an executive functioning skills class. I if they do it for financial literacy, I think it should be explored for
Mhm.
executive functioning skills as well. And
Yeah,
and
I agree.
middle
Yeah.
school or just because these skills are going to carry you through the rest of your life. And how great would it be if there was actually a way to teach a child to be organized and a class that taught you how to study. That to me is a skill that is so lacking in our education system. Teaching kids how to study, outlines, highlighting, note cards. I mean, everything you've spoken about, I think would be so beneficial and set our kids up for success.
Yeah. And the one common theme with studying that I get, and you guys probably have heard, is the kid comes in and I say, okay, they have a test, right? Chemistry test, whatever it is. Okay, well, it's time to study. And I say, well, what did you do to study? Well, I looked over my notes. Okay. And how does that help you? What did that do? Did you talk to yourself and try to figure out what, the concept meant? Did you have someone quiz you? Did you try to relate vocabulary and understand the vocabulary, not memorize it, like be able to explain it?
Mhm.
Um, those things are not happening. And
Right,
that's I'm seeing in college students. They're like, yeah, I just review my notes. But that's not enough, right?
right.
That's not really studying. You need to be able to explain, right, and break down concepts and connect them to the real world. And if we could get kids and adults to do that, they'd be much more successful in life and jobs, etc.
And I see that as a big jump between middle school and high school because I you're not just regurgitating facts any longer. You have to actually apply them,
Mhm.
especially if you have a child who's taking advanced placement classes. You have to learn how to apply the concepts that you're learning, not just regurgitate facts and numbers and dates. So I don't feel like our education system is doing a good enough job in giving our kids those skills.
Yeah, not at all. Because
Right.
memorizing something, and I was thinking about this, and talking to a student about this even yesterday. I was thinking about I have a 16-year-old son, and he had asked me a question about something in algebra two. And I'm like, it was a formula that I memorized and I was when I was younger and I probably
Yeah.
forgot. So I went to look at it and I'm like, I don't know how to do this, right? I got to relearn how to
Mhm.
do this. And I had to look up and find a resource and try to understand the formula and how it relates to the concept. Once I could do that, then I could help him, right? Kids aren't doing that. Kids that try to memorize, I'll get a lot of kids in middle, high school, and even college that will go, yeah, I memorized for the test and I forgot the information. But how does that teach you anything?
Right.
You forget it and you're not going to be able to apply it in life. The
Yep.
goal is to be able to be a problem solver, a critical thinker, to be able to break things down, to use real world connections, to understand. Skills like those help you in the workplace, in the career and family life, et cetera, all the way through. And those are what you need to be able to do.
To be successful.
Yeah,
Sure.
to be successful. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm just curious, you talk about a lot about your time in education. How did you make the transition from education to coach?
Yeah, super interesting. So, in the education system, I started out about 20 years ago as an elementary teacher. I remember being a fifth grade teacher and actually sitting in a conference with a couple teachers that had been veteran teachers. And we had a child that literally exhibited issues with time management, all kinds of executive function skills, organization. And we actually, with permission, went through the child's backpack in that conference and reorganized that child, and labeled folders, etc. And I really give props to those teachers for spending that time and also saying, this is something important that we need to do. So I continued to think about that as I taught and as I tutored kids. And I started to realize, wow, a lot of kids really just need executive function skills support, but it's masked by content issues.
Hmm.
So I continued my teaching career, taught middle school, seventh and eighth grade, and then went into curriculum coaching and eventually administration. But I was always doing executive function coaching and tutoring. And I kind of moved away from tutoring because I saw how important it was for kids
Mhm.
to learn these skills.
Yeah.
And then I said to myself, I need to devote myself full time to this, and not be in the public education system, but assist and help these students. And as I started to see it and the success that the students were making, it was just a no brainer. And that's got me to the point of where I am. So
That's
How
awesome.
long do you typically work with one client? Is it an ongoing
it just depends.
relationship?
Yeah, it's hard to say because I've tried to come up with that statistic. I would say approximately a year, but
Mhm.
it depends on the child. There's some kids I've worked for about 6 months. There's some kids that I've worked for over a couple years. There's some kids that just needed a couple of sessions to talk through things. So it really is very unique based on the student. But again, it's having to work and build routines, structures, etc. So it is not an overnight process, right? It's something that kids have to commit to, parents have to commit to. And when they commit to it and really put that effort in, then it's successful.
Mhm. And how does a session work? Are you meeting? Are you in person? Are you virtual? What can a family expect?
Yeah, I mean, so what they can expect is it is virtual. We do a consultation, kind of just talk about just what the strengths of the student are, what the weaknesses are, what the opportunities for growth are, what the goals are. This can turn into an intake session with the parent, uh, and then with the student, where it's divided up into two 30-minute segments. Oftentimes, though, the parents do provide so much information during the consultation that it is enough to run with and kind of proceed to working with the student. Then meet with the student, talk through goals, and then set up a plan, which normally people start with 4 weeks, where meet for 30 minutes, one time a week. And during that session, we talk through, and determine, okay, let's figure out strategies to meet that goal. We then practice how to utilize those strategies,
Okay.
and then talk through, what it will look like and try to visualize what it looks like also. We then meet for a second session for 30 minutes during that week as a check in to reflect on how is the strategy working? Are there modifications that need to be made? Where do we go through? Where do we go from here? And then we proceed through, that plan through the month, and then we kind of, after that month we look and we say, okay, should we continue with the child? Are things working? Do we need to move to a different plan where we meet, once a week, or we meet biweekly, or we meet monthly, or however that works? Oftentimes they continue through that cycle, of 4 weeks and start another 4 weeks of continuing to work with the child because it is successful and they are seeing progress. It's just celebrating those wins that
Yeah.
the child makes, however small they may be, right? That continues the momentum to proceed further.
Is there something that the parents at home can do to help support these new skills? And will you coach the parent on that, or do they get feedback to know this is what they should be doing?
Yeah. So every session, they get a session report, which focuses on, well, what went well during this session? What are some opportunities for growth? What executive function skill did we focus on during the session? What's the action plan that the student needs to take in order to proceed and work with this new skill? And then on top of that, um, uh, I'm always available via email, via text, or via phone call to kind of talk through. In fact, prior to this taping, I had a parent that contacted me with a child that is being very reactive, and we have to kind of relook at his plan and figure out where we're going to proceed from there. We went through and talked through the best way to work with that child and continue to proceed. And that is something that we do. I also often meet with parents and the child via Zoom, kind of just to talk through how things are
Okay.
going. And with college students, there's a fine line because they are over 18.
Mhm.
But I do share with them that your parents I'm accountable also to your
Your
parents.
parents are paying.
Right.
Right.
So we need they need to know what's going on. Obviously, if there's with any kid, if there's a safety issue, right, they need to
Yeah.
know that immediately. I am going to let them know, where we're headed because they are a partner. And that's a big piece is we need to be partners
Right.
throughout this endeavor,
Mhm.
right? We need to be on the same page. And so, yes, we need to talk the same talk and we need to walk the same walk, especially with the strategies that we are working on with the student.
It sounds great. I think I wanna sign up.
I I mean, I love it. I was very into traditional education, and this has just been a godsend for me because just to see somebody grow and somebody just however small it is, make a change and improve and feel better about themselves. That's the biggest thing. And less anxious, right? And want to really be successful.
Right.
It's just the greatest thing in the world. And then seeing families where the dynamic is just toxic, improving over time is just, it's so excellent. And it's why I do this too.
Do you have one favorite tip or strategy that you would like to leave our listeners with that
Yes.
could be a game changer for them?
Yes. And it may sound silly, but every single student, no matter what age they are, has to have some type of planner. It can be a physical planner to plan and structure their day. It can be a Google Calendar, which I love, and it can be a shared Google Calendar with parents,
Mhm.
also so they're on the same page with their child. Uh, or it can be a whiteboard, like I talked about
Mhm.
earlier with
Yep.
writing tasks. Um, but another piece too is the reflection piece and introspection and thinking about, you know, one of the things I always do after every session is reflect on what worked, what went well, what are some opportunities for growth for myself and for the student and for the parents. And I think it's very important that parents sit and reflect on the best way to talk through and collaborate to help with their child, their
So
student.
when do you suggest parents do the reflection piece? Is that something like at the end of a day? Hey, what worked for you today? What didn't? Or is it a weekly check-in? What would you suggest?
At
Or
the end of the day, I really think even just having a journal and just saying,
Mm.
one win from today was, or one small win from today was this.
I
Because
love that.
what I used to do, and actually go back to this, is I had kind of like not a diary, but a little notebook on my desk that was my reflection book. And I would reflect on again the small wins or the big wins from the sessions and or the opportunities for growth, be it in myself or be it in the student. And that just makes it's just so helpful because you look at it and you go, okay, you know what, that didn't work. Maybe if we try it this way, it will. So I think it's very important, and to see it. Another thing is they could also do, which I do a lot, voice memos, even in your phone. So talk it out and play it back. Remember those small wins. Remember what happened. Remember the positive. Don't focus on the negative. Often we only see, right, the negative, right? Impacts us so much. But
That's
if you
true.
see that positive, you can run with it.
Yeah. I also like that brain bias. When you tell yourself something, you find evidence to support it all day long. And if you're starting with something that's a positive and you can support and give yourself evidence of how you did something positive, how something worked well for you, you can begin to change the narrative in your head and then hopefully find success that way.
Absolutely. And I always talk about that as this subconscious. We control our thoughts. We control, we make the choice on what we're thinking. So we need to really focus on trying to frame the positive and the wins and the growth mindset. Carol Dweck is a psychologist I often research and refer to, fixed versus growth mindset. In essence, I can do this. I haven't gotten there yet, but I will.
I love that.
Love that. So, if a parent listening would like to reach out to you, what is the best way? We will tag you and we will put all your information in our show notes. But if you could just share with us, should they email, call? What's your preferred method of contact?
Either email, call, visit our website. Again, it's skills dash the number 4 life dash coach.com. There's a way to send a message on there. My email, they can email me directly. It's just Todd Weisbrot. It's WEISBROT 8 at gmail.com. And they can also give me a call, 954 728 0493. So any
And
method.
and we'll put all that in our show, all that information in our show notes as well. Uh, Thank you so much for being with us today, Todd. I think you were able to shed light on that executive functioning is really not about intelligence. It's really about skills that you need to take you through your life and to help
Mhm.
you find success.
Right.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much for shedding light on executive function.
And thank you for having me and sharing this, because I think it's just so important for everyone to know and spread the word so that we can help our students, we can help our college students, we can help our adults, and again, function and be supported throughout life. So I really appreciate it. And I love the fact that we'll get the word out.
Great. Thank you. And to everyone listening, we appreciate you and your continued support. If you need to reach us, we can be reached at info@parentcoachesunleashed.com, and follow us and give us a comment. Let us know what you thought about this episode on Instagram. So thank you. We truly appreciate you and have a great one. Bye.
Bye.
I guess.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed with Carrie and Jessica. Together, we can raise the next generation of independent, capable, and compassionate young adults.
We encourage you to send us an email with questions and feedback to info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Please remember, you are not alone on this parenting journey.